Morning, everyone. Before we start the meeting, I have an announcement to make. Our recording secretary has informed me that the Coastal Point indicated that this would be a public hearing on the bike path, and it's not. That's wrong information, and we don't know how it got out there. So if anybody's here for the bike path, you're more than welcome to stay and listen to us, but that won't be a subject of this meeting. With that, we will call the meeting to order. We have all our members here. If everybody will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our next item of business is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Move the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Next item is discussion and approval of the minutes of the April 23rd, 2022 meeting. Has everybody had an opportunity to read those?
Move the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I made all the announcements I have, unless anybody on the board has another announcement they'd like to make. But if there are none, we'll move on. The next second area is the public comments and questions for the Planning Commission. Does anyone in the audience have any comments they would like to make or state? If you do, please come up to the podium over there, state your name and your address, and time is yours. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Janet Freeman. I'm at 319 Wellington Parkway, and I have a question about variances. I'd like to know how a house, a new build, gets approved and then needs a variance because it's almost a foot taller than was proposed.
I can answer that, but I will let our expert answer that.
Well, that goes not to this board, but to the Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
That deliberated on that. They went, and there was a hearing on it, and they looked at all the factors that attributed to this oversight by the builder, and agreed that it was not intended. It's not, and they approved it as a variance.
Huh. Okay, I was just kind of surprised to see that because it being a new build and other people who have built homes, had to lower roof lines or whatever, so I just, I was just curious,
There's minutes for that meeting, and I believe they're on our website if you want to read through it and take a look at how they decided that.
Would that be on the Board of Adjustment minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you don't happen to know the date of that, do you?
Not off the top of my head, but it's
Okay,
more recent, so you'd only have to go through a couple because they don't meet every month.
okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Are there any more questions or comments? Well, with that, I skipped right by everything I was going to do. Okay. All right. Moving backwards, we're going to hear from our liaison, Scott Erickson, on what's happening with the council.
Thank you, Mike. I think, it's good to note that agenda items may not be considered in sequence, so there we go. The town council met yesterday. We had a few items of business. I think most importantly was from the town manager's update, where we learned that with the help of DENREC, all of the beach crossings are open now from the boardwalk to the beach, so that was Herculean effort on their part and would not have happened if we weren't going to have our beach replenished this fall. So that was great news. There were some rumblings going around that beach access may not be opened at all for the summer, so at least from the boardwalk. We also voted on a couple of items. One was to change the makeup of the non-residential design review committee so that it did not require the town council's liaison to the Planning and Zoning Commission to sit on that, which spares you and Susan from having to hang out with me at one more hearing, but which Lou Kilmer will still stay on that board. And then we tabled the possible vote on the ordinance regarding pervious and impervious surfaces because we recently got new information from McCormick and Taylor, which may allow us to refine and make that a more holistic approach to lot occupancy and coverage. So with that,
Oh, Scott, I had
Sure.
one question on that last item. To let the audience know and the people viewing us what that means if somebody comes in for, say, a new driveway or something.
so there's a thing called the pending ordinance doctrine, which means that this is still a pending ordinance. So if someone brought an application for a new driveway or some sort of coverage to the building inspector, that would have to either comply with the pending ordinance as written, so it would be required to be pervious surfaces or a maximum of 5% of impervious surface, or Susan could advise them to wait if they wanted to until the more up-to-date or the more refined wording comes out, because it's likely that there will be an alternative approach where you could either be completely, you cover with only, pervious surfaces, or you grade and direct things to, say, rain gardens and bioretention and things like that. So essentially, that ordinance is in place and pending further refinements.
Thank you. One other thing is taken, oh, yes, ma'am. If you please would go up to the podium, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Janie Switzer, 319 East, is that my address? 318 East Columbia, that's 318 Wellington Parkway, sorry. I received that email from the town saying that all the beach ramps were open, when in fact yesterday Wellington was completely blocked off, and there has not been any kind of a new sand ramp as I've seen in the other beach entrances. So I was just wondering about that. That's the ADA ramp. And just in general, for being an ADA ramp, that is one of the most dangerous ramps in the whole town. And I use that, and I don't have any ADA requirements, but it slopes, and the mat has this huge bump in it, and it turns so many times that even getting just a regular beach cart along that ramp is difficult, much less someone that has ADA restrictions. So just in general, once everything is being cleaned up and fixed, if you could please look at that ramp. Please use that ramp. Please see how dangerous it is and narrow. So, but just, it's closed. It's not open.
So I should note that DENREC actually controls all of the ramps and is in charge of design and construction of all of them. I know that the town manager's office expressed some concern over how to get the Wellington ramp back open. I was under the impression that they were all open, but sounds like they're still working on Wellington. I know the part of the issue is how steep it is there and how little beach there is to work with on the backside of the dune. The town manager's office is aware of the issues with Wellington and Ocean View Parkway, both of the ADA ramps. So they will be working with DENREC at whatever speed DENREC goes to try to make that right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I think you've got the entire town council here. Most of them are here, including the mayor. One other thing that's happened last week, the chairman of the planning commission and our representative on the planning commission, town council, the mayor, and the town manager, assistant town manager, we met last week, and the town is going to begin to write a handbook on how the Planning and Zoning Commission what they are, how it should be run and things like that. There has not been a problem, but when anybody here today who was on the Planning Commission, we learned by the seat of our pants. I've been on it for 12 years, and I never got direction, but I did follow some good people like Lou Kilmer, and he knew most of it. But when we're all gone and we get new blood here, it'll be very beneficial for any new members that they can get a guide as to who, what, where, and when, and what they can do. So I just wanted to bring that up. Scott, did you have any additional comment on that?
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. I think the things like the McCormick and Taylor report that will help us in our pervious and non-pervious discussions, learning as we did, as you said, by the seat of our pants, that those resources are available to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I think that sort of thing will help us as we go forward, and also this document will help us with our 5-year update to the comprehensive plan when we finally wrap up the comprehensive plan. So just things like that, I think it'll be pretty beneficial as we move forward.
I agree. Yes, ma'am, if you'll go to the podium.
Sure. I'm Gaffney Smith, and I'm at 428 Weekend. I just had a couple of questions, and Scott, it's for you. When you talk about the consultant, McCormick Taylor, and they're going to provide technical guidance in terms of any potential alternative approaches for impervious, do you have a scope for this contract with McCormick and Taylor and the services they provide? They're the same consultant that worked on the Central Park, correct?
I honestly don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
We
Okay. Do you have a scope for that kind of work that they're doing in terms of pervious, impervious? Because
We're actually not even under contract with them yet. So they are working with the town on a couple of other projects. So they were approached to just, hey, could you take a look at what we've done and offer some guidance on it? So we don't have any information from them yet, but we will.
So can I don't know who to direct the question to. I'd like to see the contract that the town has with McCormick Taylor.
I would contact the town manager's office
Okay.
about that.
Oh, so it's the town manager. I can write to Cliff.
Sure.
Yes, we,
Okay,
the
just to
Planning
see-
Commission doesn't write contracts.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to see the scope, because what you're saying causes me a little apprehension, if you will, in terms of revision to an ordinance that has already gone through, and then revision to it, and how you're talking about how the rain gardens and how they're going to direct things. And I'll come back to that because I want to tie it to the existing planning and zoning approvals for how lots drain and where they drain to. So I want to look at the connection.
Yeah,
But I
that-
really want to see the scope, because I don't think that the Central Park drains necessarily the way it was envisioned. And clearly, we had problems because we redid some road stuff. So I would like to look at that, and I want to just make sure that we're not grandfathering any applications. We're continuing to require application of the existing ordinance for pervious and impervious, right?
Correct. So the other note I'll make is that at least the way that I see it, and obviously this hasn't come before the Planning and Zoning Commission, so I'm just speaking personally, when it was brought up to me, the way that I would see this going is that it's actually an amendment to it. So it's not going to revise what's already been written, but it's going to give you, as a homeowner, the opportunity to say, if you wanted to, you could hire, say, a civil engineer to come up with a land planning and have to submit that to the town for approval. And if you could demonstrate that you were controlling your runoff and that it was all going to be,
Right.
that the water was going to be filtered through pervious surfaces. So it would be a more expensive path. You could either say, provide us with 100 or 95% pervious surfaces, or demonstrate that you're following these.
Right, and the reason I want to look at this so seriously is just that example this woman brought up, where we had a building construction. They knew what the rules were, and then they overbuilt, and then I'm sure there was some kind of approval process after the fact, and hopefully some rectification. I want to look at that too, just to see, how do you hold people accountable? Because you may look at something, and if you don't have the design right, you're going to miss. And it's going to increase the problem of flooding, which we clearly know exists in this building. Builders know what the rules are. So if So at any rate, that's not for you, but that's how I'm tying it all together. So I'll write to the town, I want to see this McCormick Taylor. They're not the only engineers in town, but they do a lot of stuff, and they're clearly doing something perhaps for free for us. I just want to see the scope of that.
Yeah, I can assure you that any modifications that the town council makes to what was submitted to them
Yeah.
will be an open discussion before they do anything.
Beforehand.
I mean, it's,
Right.
it didn't end the hearing. I
No.
guess that's the official word.
Scott, I appreciate good update.
Yeah, absolutely.
John?
Mr. Chairman, I want to go back to the item on the agenda, which was this rules of practice, or this guideline book, document that's going to be prepared. And I just want to get it on the record. I assume that before that is finalized, that we on the Planning Commission will have an opportunity to see what is proposed and add our input and comments to it also. I've been on the commission like you, sir, quite some time, and there have been times where I honestly found, I wish that, as an example, that the town solicitor had been at the meeting when we were deciding things to make sure that we understood the limits of what we were able to do and asking the right questions. And I always sometimes felt badly because we would turn to Susan and ask her for input that wasn't necessarily hers. And so this handbook, I think, is going to be very helpful, but I want to be sure that we, the members of the Planning Commission, have an opportunity to review and comment before it's finalized.
Well, I think I can speak to that point. The mayor and staff did contact me before they made a decision what they were going to do, and I did have a very nice meeting with them last week. It was my understanding with the people who were there that, yes, we would have input, because they did not want to step on the Planning and Zoning Commission's toes on this, so we will have input on that. That was my understanding, and before the thing is finalized. Again, handbook, and it's comments like that that need to be addressed. Ms. Mayor, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I don't want you to think this is going to be a handbook. I guess how this came about was, I don't know if you recall back when they were considering the tasting rooms, or the tasting on the part of ABC with the alcohol beverage and control. The question came up, and John, you raised it, and Mike raised it, what the role of the Planning and Zoning Commission was. And at the time, we had Max Walton, the attorney, issue a legal opinion on it. And then it came up again with the most recent submittal of the permeable surface ordinance, and just how that would work back and forth. So basically, it was just going to be a procedure for how these things would work between the council and the Planning and Zoning Commission. And definitely, we would sit down and run it by you first.
The reason that I wanted it on the record is simply the Planning Commission, we only make recommendations
Right.
to the town council. I mean, and we get our guidance, Madam Mayor, from you and the council. And so just want to be sure that we're in sync going forward. And not that we haven't been, but
Right.
To be sure that we, as members of the commission, have an understanding of what the direction is from the town council, because that's who we answer to and who we provide our recommendations to.
Yeah. We just wanted to work efficiently and respect one another's roles, and we appreciate the work that comes forth from Planning and Zoning.
Thank you. Okay, that was public comment number 2, so we did it twice. Any other comments?
A non-residential design review update if there is one.
There is not, we do have a meeting coming up that will have several new signs being looked at.
Okay, good. Item 3, new business. First item of new business is we have an application to combine properties known as Block 25, lots 1, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, tax map and parcel numbers 134-13, 19-61.01, 134-13, 19-62.00, 134-13, 19-63.00, 134-13, 19-64.00, and 134-13.19-65. Hope everybody got that. Into one parcel at meeting scheduled to be held today. Susan, first question is, have we,
Mr. Chairman, before we move on further, I'd like to put this into a broader context. We have two applications today, and for my purposes, I divide the town into a quadrant. The quadrant being Route 26, east and west, and Route 1, north and south. And the two properties that we're going to be addressing are in the northwest quadrant. So that's inland and north. And they're both what I would consider more densely wooded areas as in relation to the whole town. When we get to the second application, I'm going to ask your permission to go into that one in great detail. But for those who are listening, these are both properties that are in the northwest quadrant, which would mean on the St. Anne's side of Route 26 and inland. Thank you.
okay. Susan, have we crossed all the Ts and dotted all the Is on notification?
Yes, sir. Let me grab that piece of paper. Yes, it was published. I'll have to ask Andrea that. It was posted on April 8th, 2022. And you want to ask Andrea the rest, or?
Andrea?
The newspaper, the wave was April 12th, and the coastal point was April 15th.
So yes, it was properly posted and advertised.
All right, thank you. Now, Susan?
Right, I did not prepare a memo for this because it basically says it all right in the public notice. The town has purchased what was informally known as the Walcheck property, and then again purchased the Dematitis property, and it's required for adding it to the town map for it to be made into one parcel. So there are existing interior lot lines that, one, it was two separate owners, and two, one owner could have decided he wanted to do things with separate parcels, but for the town's recording and to add it to the town map, it has to become one parcel. So this application is merely asking to remove 4 interior lot lines, creating one parcel.
Any questions? John?
Not a question, Mr. Chairman. But again, in the broader context, the town, the combined area of these two parcels is like 12.3 acres. And the town has invested over $1.2 million to buy those properties, which are undeveloped, as town property, so as to ensure that no development goes on in it. And this is now a simple matter of taking these two parcels and for purposes of recording it, making it just one lot so that it is clear that it's one lot and owned by the city. I have no questions about the application.
If you come up there, please.
Zach Alexander, 430 Wygand. I'm just wondering why it's a requirement that the lots be combined. Why can't they just stay 4 or 5 separate lots?
It's my understanding it's required that because it's the town property, for it to be added to the map as all town property, that it's supposed to be one, that it has to be one parcel. That's my understanding. It's part of, it's in our code for properties owned by the town, and it's from what I was told by the town manager, it's also in state regulations that this become one parcel for adding it to our map as town property.
Is that because it's contiguous parcels, or,
That would be my understanding.
so where would we find the authority for this?
That I would have to go back and look at. This is just my understanding of it for adding it to the map. I believe it's partially in our code, but I couldn't pinpoint where it right now.
Okay, thank you.
I would, in answer to your question, I would send a letter to the town manager, and I'm sure he can provide you with the information you would like, or contact him somehow, your choice. Yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Chip Smith. I live at 428 Wiegans Lane in Bethany Beach. Right out of the box, hearing what Ms. Frederick said, I would argue that the Planning and Zoning Commission ought to defer action on this until we actually see the authority in writing and have it, the legal site provided to us, and so that all of you up there, before you vote, know what you're voting on. I guess it's my feeling that I think and understanding it'd be nice to get the maps together simply isn't a legal or good government policy reason to do this. Number two, I'd like a more thorough discussion from somebody, probably Ms. Fredericks, on what the implications are of this. Combining, I understand on the surface of it, it may look like a simple and easy thing to do, but when I look at the zoning regulations at 425, parts 78 through 80, by putting everything together in one lot, designating it for recreational and other purposes, we can have all kinds of development out there. And then third, it seems to me, and I know walkway is not supposed to be on the agenda, this is perhaps a backdoor way to get this property zoned up in a way that facilitates constructing a walkway that many, many people in this community oppose, even studying, let alone building. So I'd like to see that authority. I'd like to see something in writing that justifies this action, a better discussion of what the impacts of this action are, and how can we get a commitment from the council and the town that once they do this, they're not going to build, there's a huge list of things that could be built under the zoning regulations. So, yeah, that's it on this one. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to respond to that. One, anyone can combine properties. It's not, if it meets the regulations of the code as far as frontage and area, they are able to combine them. You can combine 2 lots at any time. So there's no implication that it means anything more than that. Secondly, it's municipal property, and to go into any other kind of development would require more public hearings. I mean, this is not what's happening today here. All they're doing here is removing interior lot lines. They could rezone it with the, I guess with the lot lines there. What my understanding is to add it to our maps as municipal property. It has to be one parcel. And we had 2 different owners at one time. We had these other stray lot lines going through it. Portions of it, were sold off to many people on Wiegand Lane. So we have that kind of jog in it. We want it to be one parcel owned by the town. That's simply all that's going on. There's no other agenda at this time.
Yeah, the other thing, we've dealt with this property for a while under different circumstances, and there's a lot of interaction we have to do with the state to do anything there because of the flood areas. So I can't promise you what a future council will do or a future planning and zoning commission would do, but it's not the intention of planning and zoning to do anything other than meet the requirements that the town is supposed to meet. Madam Mayor?
I just wanted to say a couple of things. First, and I don't know the site, I apologize for that. I did see it, but I can't refer you to the site in the state code. But the area right now is zoned residential. It's not zoned properly. When we purchased the park, we purchased it in two different, we purchased it from the church and also from NEF. And what they had to do was to erase the boundary lines there before we could zone it municipal. And the same thing is here. But I would point out, because I know your concern is the pathway, which is not at issue here, but we could build the pathway whether or not it's rezoned and the lines are taken out. That's not the issue. It could be built right now, but it's not going to be built right now. And taking the lines out and rezoning it properly does not affect the pathway one way or the other.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, Mr. Smith, I understand your concern and the concern that many neighbors of that area have raised about the path. As Mr. Boswell pointed out, the path is not currently under discussion, and this doesn't have anything to do with that. Your concern over like the zoned, if it were zoned as town property, the amount of things that could be developed on it, that's true now as a residential property. Right now, an individual owner could fill 5,000 square feet legally without a variance, just with approval from the Army Corps, which they would have to give on each one of those individual lots as long as they met the frontage. So if anything, combining these lots, as I see it, is actually the path towards preservation of that property. So furthermore, I think the Planning and Zoning Commission can really only look to see whether the requirements have been met for combination. We don't have the Planning and Zoning Commission doesn't have the authority to act in any other way other than to say, have these requirements been met? Do the lots meet the requirements to be combined? And if so, it is the commission's duty to combine the lots, as far as I understand it.
John?
Mr. Chairman, as you noted, the commission has dealt with this property in various forms over many, many years. And when I saw this application, I saw it as a positive step forward because we were talking about, in terms of the interior lines, lots 1, 5, 8, 9, 10, and 11. That's all part of the Walczek property. We had dealt with Mr. Walczek on a number of various development schemes. By buying it, eliminating even internal lines of those lots, to me, was going to clarify what the intent here is, which is that this property is under town control, is not in the market for other development. And so I heard the comment that this was potentially a scheme to allow other things to happen. Speaking only for myself, I have never seen this as a scheme to make it so that some other thing could happen. I've always looked at this property as taking it out of the realm of development so as to avoid, you've seen some of the way schemes have been done, and have always seen it as the straightforward process that it is. I don't know if that helps in responding to any of the concerns, but just to build on what Scott and the mayor said. I did not see this as a problematic application.
Can I, just to build on my own argument, as to this being the path towards preservation of that property, imagine a dystopian future town of Bethany government that's cash-strapped. If these weren't combined and moved into public open space, that future administration could say, well, we're going to sell each of these residential lots individually, and then, as we know right now, there is no code restricting what a single owner of a single lot can do with that. The Army Corps and the wetlands would restrict them to filling 5,000 square feet, but they could go cut all those trees down and send them to the mill if they wanted to. So again, I think this, combining them and putting them in town control, as required by the ordinance, that also happens to be the proper way to protect this property. And then, as the mayor pointed out, any future activity on that property would require town council approval, public hearings, and so there will be many opportunities to comment on what this should or should not be along the way.
Any further questions? Okay, if there are none, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the Planning Commission approve the application to combine the property known as Block 25, lots 1, 5, 8, 9, 10, and 11. I'm not going to read the remainder of it. I recognize that there have been concerns raised, but I would still make that motion for approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And it passes. Okay, next item of new business is we're considering an application for a minor subdivision for property identified as lot 77, 78, 79, block 28 at 610 Fifth Street in the R1 zoning district, scheduled to be held today at 9 o'clock. Susan, have all the, yes, John.
Mr. Chairman, before we get into the details of that application, I would like to raise a number of questions. I don't live here full-time, and I make it a practice when there are applications to go and visit the site. So I rolled into town on Thursday and went to 610 Fifth Street. And when I got there, here's what I saw. That's the, for those, again, to help people orient, if the traffic light at St. Anne's, if you're coming into town, if you turn left at that traffic light, that is Evans Avenue, and it bisects the church parking lot and then goes into the community. First Street, Second Street, and you get to the corner of Evans and Fifth, and this property is on the right-hand corner. 16,000 square feet. If you were to go up there today, here's what you're going to see. It is totally clear-cut. The only thing on that property are two temporary signs announcing the public hearing that's being held, and the fabric containment material. It is clear cut. within sight of my truck along Fifth Street, I saw the stumps of at least three trees, one of which the diameter has to be over 40 inches. The next one over 36 inches. The next one 24 inches. It was muddy. I didn't have my Wellingtons. There was water in the middle. But it is clear cut, ladies and gentlemen. And as of February of this year, that was a large wooded lot with a house in the middle of it. Well, there's no house anymore. It was removed under permit, as far as I know. But it was a very jarring experience for me to see this lot clear-cut and the house being done. And as a result, before we even get to this application, I'm hoping that there is a representative here that made the application, because I have a number of questions that I want to go through to help me understand, and maybe others, how we went from a mature wooded lot with a house on it to where we are today, before we go forward on the actual discussion.
Okay, thanks, John. Susan, did we meet all the requirements for the public hearing?
We did. The public notice was published in the Wave newspaper April 12th and the Coastal Point on April 15th. And the property was posted, and the notices were sent out, and it was put on the website, and it was posted around town all on April 8th.
Thank you. Other than John, does anybody have any questions? Now, we do have a representative here, but does anybody have any questions they'd like to or statements they'd like to make before I ask the representative to come in?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to second what John had to say. I live a couple of blocks over from that property, and I just couldn't believe my eyes, quite frankly. And I don't know if there's anyone here who experienced flooding right there at that corner that is often bad on a regular day. I really think it was much worse, and I don't know if it had anything to do with the fact that there's just a clear-cut lot there right now. But this is a tremendous concern to me as someone who lives here.
Just to make a statement, and Susan, correct me where I'm wrong, sorry.
Yes.
Single lots do not have any tree ordinances on them, correct? Or would you explain that then?
They do not. The regulation basically, what is in the code is that, not that they have a regulation against removing trees, but they're not to do any clearing or site work until they have a permit, and they must give the town 24 hours notice.
Okay.
That's all that's on the code right now.
Did that happen in this case?
It did not.
Okay. Any more questions from the planning commission? Okay, could I ask the owner to come up, identify yourself, and answer questions or provide any statement you would like?
Sure, yeah. My name is Tim Naughton, and we're at 33176 Coastal Highway.
I'm sorry, Tim? Is it Tim?
Yes, Tim.
Okay, thank you.
I'm available to answer questions if anybody would like to ask any.
Did you want me to read the?
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Susan.
Let's, take this in order. And I want to back up a little on your question that there's two sections of the code to be considered. One is notification. That was another issue that was resolved already. The other issue is the tree ordinance, which states that during any kind of subdivision, they are to develop and submit a tree plan. So that's the issue here. And and I'll find my memo here. The rest of this is that it's the Evergreen Companies LLC are requesting to subdivide the parcel known as 610 Fifth Street into 3 lots. Based upon the information provided, the property is zoned R1 residential pursuant to Appendix 3, Table of Dimensional Requirements in the R1 district. The minimum street frontage for interior lots is 40 feet, and the minimum lot area for single dwellings is 5,000 square feet. This minimum street frontage for a corner lot is 50 feet, and minimum lot area 5,000 square feet. Parcel consists of 16,000 square feet. It has 160 feet of frontage on Fifth and is 100 feet deep. There is currently a dwelling, excuse me a second. There is currently a dwelling on Lot 78, and it's slated to be demolished. A demo permit was issued. The applicant is proposing to create 3 lots, basically reestablishing original lot lines. There's Lot 77, will have 50 feet of frontage on Fifth and 5,000 square feet of area. Its address will be 612 Fifth Street. Lot 78 will also have 50 feet of frontage on Fifth, 5,000 square feet of area. Its address will be 610 Fifth Street. Lot 79, the corner lot, will have 60 feet of frontage on Fifth, and its address will be 608 Fifth Street. And I sent a reduced copy of the plat showing the current conditions and one with all improvements removed.
Thank you, Susan.
Susan, I have a question. Was this originally 1 lot, or was it originally 3 lots?
I can't tell you that, don't know. I
Okay.
know that at some point, it obviously had 3 lots,
Okay.
but was combined into 1 parcel, and those lines removed. They were removed on our maps, and they're removed on the county maps.
And Susan, that's like vintage 1987 or so, when,
As far back as I could figure from county records, somewhere early 80s, if not earlier.
Okay, do we have some questions? John?
Mr. Chairman, I apologize in advance because this is going to be very methodical, but I want to make sure that we're all on the same page and so forth. The application for this minor subdivision has the following information on it. It says that the owner of record is EVG-Admiral Ventures LLC. Is that correct, Tim?
Yes.
And you're able to speak to that, right? Are you the owner?
I am one of the owners of EVG and Evergreen Homes, yes.
The applicant was from Elisa I. of the Evergreen Companies. Is that one and the same?
Lisa I is an employee of the Evergreen Companies, yes.
Okay. And you can speak for the applicant also?
I am the applicant, yes.
Okay. And the property that was acquired by Evergreen Development, as I understood it, was you acquired the property February 22nd of this year. Is that correct?
I do not know the exact date.
All right, but it's all the same entity. You're able to try to address any questions I have, whether it be Evergreen Development, Evergreen Admiral Ventures, and so forth.
Yes, I can speak for any of the companies, Evergreen Homes, Evergreen Development, Admiral Ventures.
Okay, that's very helpful. How long have you guys, Evergreen, been doing business in Bethany Beach?
In the county of Sussex County in Ocean City, probably over 10 years.
Okay. So you're familiar with the Bethany Beach town codes and all, where the zoning requirements and so forth are?
I am familiar with the codes, yes.
Have you ever seen the Bethany Beach Comprehensive Development Plan? Are you aware of this?
I don't recall.
Okay. Every town in Delaware is required to have a comprehensive development plan. We are currently coming to the end of the 2012-2022 development plan. All right? I commend this to you because there are sections in here that relate to trees and the city's, the town's approach to some of these things. Are you aware that Bethany Beach is a member of the Tree City program?
I was not aware of that.
Okay.
I may have read that before, but I'm not aware of that.
That's a program under the federal government and in conjunction with the Arbor Foundation that encourages trees and all, and the positive things that they bring to it. I asked those questions in advance because I'm going to ask you to help me understand how we went from, as I opened with, a mature treed lot with a house on it to where we are today. Okay? So, sometime in February, you acquired the property.
Yes, we acquired the property in February. It's a single parcel, and we put in an application for the demo of the house, and within that application, we included the tree clearing estimate to clear all the trees. As you know, and Scott said, the individual has the right to clear all the trees on their property whenever they want. A company in the code, depending on what type of company they are, may or may not. But we put in for a demo permit, and our intention was to clear the majority of the trees. So we thought that we had given the town proper notice of that. When you go to build a property, if you're going to just clear trees, we meet with Susan ahead of time, and we walk the property and determine which trees can be cleared. When you have a demolition, we thought that when we put in the demolition application, if we included the tree clearing bid, that would automatically fulfill the 24 hours notice. We were wrong according to what we know now, and we are very clear on that now. So we went ahead, and there are two issues here. I'm speaking to the tree clearing. In my opinion, there's two issues. I'm speaking to the tree clearing. I think the application for the subdivision, I think we meet all those requirements, but specifically on the tree clearing, I think we cleared too many trees. We didn't clear everything. We saved, I think, 2 trees in the back, 2 large pines in the back. If you look at what we intend to do in the future, the 16,000 square feet gets cut into 3 approximately 5,000 square foot lots, which show on the current Bethany Beach plan, if you pull that plan. We are reestablishing lot lines on a parcel. So when you take that 5,000 square foot lot, place the house on it, the majority of the trees had to go. The majority, I think we came down to 7 to 10 trees through an engineering study that could have stayed. And we intend to replant those trees replant trees in the exact locations of where we took down trees that were supposed to be in place according to Susan. So we've submitted that plan as well at a time. So we went in and cleared 1 parcel. We thought we had the right to clear it. We should have done a better job meeting with Susan ahead of time. We thought we had met the requirement for what Susan needed, and we didn't. Like I said, that being said, we've submitted a plan to replant the trees. On the second item, which is the subdivision, I believe that we meet all the requirements of the subdivision according to the town code. And we are also producing lots or reestablishing lots that are in the same exact character of the lots around that parcel.
Thank you for that explanation. Let's get a little more specific, though.
Okay.
You acquired the property in February of this year. When did you decide that you were going to cut the trees down? How many did you cut down? And what did you do with those trees? I heard what you said about being the property owner and all. How many trees did you cut down?
I don't know the specific number, but you have a plan in front of you that shows them.
The reason I ask is I have a picture. I don't know, I can't vouch for who took it or whatever, and I can pass it over to you. It shows at least 13 large trees that are down on the ground and stacked up. That's why I'm asking, how many trees did you take down? Because it is more than what I heard you say.
I didn't say anything. I said that you have all the trees marked on a plan in front of you that I took down.
What did you do with the trees that you cut down?
The gentleman who comes in and cuts down the trees takes the trees. Typically, he uses them for lumber, but I don't know what happened to these specific trees.
Did you sell them to him, or was that part of the contract? I'm just trying to understand.
Every contract we do with a tree clearing company, we don't sell the trees.
I'm sorry?
We do not sell the trees.
You did not sell the trees. I'd be very interested in knowing exactly how many trees were on that property to begin with and what happened to them and all.
You have all that information.
Okay. You have?
If I may, John, they submitted something here where they counted trees, and the numbers seem to go up to 27. And then there's some yellow dots that say not on the photo. I'm not quite sure what that means.
What that means is that they were, when we looked at an old Google Earth map the engineer did to site them, they were showing on that map. But when we looked at pictures of the house right before we cleared it, they were not, we could not see them on the property, so they may have been cut down ahead of time.
Okay, so they may or may not have been there. They noted 27 trees that they removed, according to this, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 possible additional.
Thank you, Susan. And I've seen that 8 by 11 piece of paper. And while I saw the numbers, it was not clear to me what that represented and exactly whether that was part of the tree replacement plan that's part of this application. Tim, Chapter 507 of the code is trees. That is separate and apart from the subdivision, Chapter 410. And that happened, Chapter 507 happened to be the one that I focused on as we were getting ready for this. And there is Article 3, removal of trees on unimproved lots within subdivisions and/or planned residential development. Says subdivisions. It does not say major subdivision, minor subdivision, it says subdivision. Were you aware of this section before you undertook your lot clearing process?
I was aware of this section. I cannot tell you that I knew every part and parcel of it, but I was aware that Section 507 covers removal of trees on unimproved lots within subdivisions and planned unit developments.
Okay. because as you look through this section, it talks about what the applicability of the section is. Section 50710, minimize tree removal. 507-11, replacement of removed trees required. 507-12, tree inventory and replacement plan required. 507-13, developer's performance bond. 507-14, violations and penalties. So it's not just a sentence in here, it is an entire section that relates to tree removal and so forth. And I'm trying to get an understanding of what kind of time and attention Evergreen was paying to that before what happened. Because my first question, general question, was what were they thinking? And I'm still trying to understand what you were thinking when there's a section, specific section in our code related to trees and to subdivisions.
Well, I would be glad to sit down with the Planning and Zoning Council and go through that whole section with you and discuss what I think my thoughts are on it. But, and I would love to do that. I would love to go piece by piece and go through it because we did not think that this particular section applied to us in this particular case. And I can go through why that was the case. But we also know that we have to cooperate with Susan and do what's right in the town, and we want to do that as well. So, and I don't want to get too technical, but the first thing is, this is for the removal of trees on unimproved lots. And this was a fully improved lot with a house and water and sewer. So,
May I?
I didn't, well, if I could finish, Susan.
Go ahead.
So while we want to cooperate with the town and we want to meet with the town anytime before we clear trees so that this doesn't become an issue in the future, I do have some challenges with this particular section. That being said, I want to do the right thing, and I have already committed to replacing every tree that was cut that would have been able to stay after I build the 3 houses. And the trees that I will replace, if you saw the trees that were there that existed, they were on average 80-foot pines. And there was no leaves or needles for the first 40 to 50 feet of those pines. And those pines are dangerous if they're close to a foundation that's put in and the ground's disturbed, and they could fall on houses in the future. So there's a lot of problems with those trees that existed as they sat there. That being said, the trees that I will plant, there won't be any of those problems, and I can replant trees that are native to this area that actually produce more oxygen per tree and do a better job of providing shade and privacy than the trees that existed there in the start. So I don't want to get too technical, and I don't want to fight about this particular issue, but I want to make it right, and I would be glad to sit down with the council and show you where I have a problem with the current code and make it better. But I don't know that that's the venue for this. That being said, I would still, I still believe that I've met every requirement for the reestablishment of the lot lines for this particular parcel, and I believe that Susan would agree with that too.
Unfortunately, I don't quite agree. I want to make several points. And one is that I was given paperwork that demonstrated, and I know the house was taken down first, but it demonstrated that all utilities were cut. This was not an improved lot. It had no electricity. It had no water. It had no sewer. So you had taken it from improved to unimproved for the purposes of subdividing. That's number.
I
let
don't
me
agree with
finish,
that.
please.
ma'am.
I understand you don't, but that's the paperwork I have. And I see that they are earnestly trying to go for what's required by the tree ordinance, but we don't have any information from them on the caliper or type of tree either that they intend to provide. And I think that's something important that the Planning Commission should
The type of tree is right on that list, and the caliper is required by code at 3 inches.
I don't have a list of
What list is that?
trees.
On the packet that you asked me to put together with the trees on there, the trees I was going to replace, the trees that were removed,
Oh, it must be this.
are all on that sheet.
There's pine trees to be planted, is that all you meant, 5? 5 trees?
No, 5 pines, and then right below that, it says, I believe, 5
Pin
uh,
oaks, okay.
pin oaks.
So all of them will be 3-inch caliper?
Code requires 3-inch caliper when you replace. It's your code in 507.
Just checking. It's not listed, so I'm just asking what you're putting in.
Yeah, there is no option. It has to be 3 inches.
Has to be minimally.
I didn't intend for this to be a relitigation of what has happened. So I want to just push forward a little bit. But I'm going to make 2 observations. One, you said it was an improved lot. I never saw it as an improved lot, and certainly it isn't an improved lot right now because it is clear-cut. But secondly, had you all followed Section 507 in trees and not cut them down before this application, we could have easily gone back and forth talking about how many trees were there, what you intended to take down, what you were going to replace it. And we wouldn't even be having this discussion had the rules that are in our code simply been followed before you clear-cut the place. Do you understand that?
Yeah, we have done that in the past, and we will be doing that, I commit to you, in the future. The change, the difficulty with this particular situation is that we thought that we met that requirement when we put in our, let me just finish. When we met our requirement, when we put in an application for a demo permit with a full tree clearing.
Right.
And that was, I understand that that was a problem. I'm telling you, that's why this happened. We will abide by the rules in the future. We have done that in the past, and this was an unusual circumstance.
I don't see it as an unusual circumstance, quite frankly. I just see it as a developer who said, well, I can do what I want to do. With all due respect to everything that you have said, and not to prejudice this, for me, that explanation, it does not carry much water for me, okay? And I don't mean for this to become adversarial, but
I respect your opinion, but I disagree.
all right. Mr. Chairman, I've taken more than enough time right now. I still have other questions, but would,
Well, I tell you,
I would be glad to sit down with you after this meeting and go through any questions you have.
well, I think if any questions will be in the open forum, so we won't have a private meeting. Let's take a 5-minute break for everybody to, whatever they need to do. So we will adjourn now for 5 minutes. We'll be back here about 15:15.
great, thank you.
Well, we already heard that once already from somebody. All right, we're back in session. I do have one announcement to make. If you do get a ticket while you're sitting in here, as soon as you go to your car, grab the ticket, bring it back to our enforcement people. They're right on the other side of the window there, and they will take care of it for you, since we're running long and we're back in business. So don't worry about leaving. You can stay as long as you can put up with us. Okay, we can continue. I think, John, you still have the floor?
Reading from the application that was submitted, I know this is boilerplate, but it says on the application, I certify all information and attached documentation provided by me to this application is correct, and I further understand that a review by the Planning Commission will not be scheduled until an application is complete as determined by the Bethany Beach building official. With all due respect to Susan, it's on the schedule, so apparently, from her view, she had what she needed. I myself don't find that 8 by 11 diagram with stars and squares as being a complete tree replacement program, and I'm not sure that this is ready to go further. Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments?
Excuse me. Just one question, Tim. On the 3-inch, proposed 3-inch caliber trees, what's the approximate height of those?
Your code requires 10 foot.
10 foot. Thank you.
I have some things to say, if I could.
Pardon?
I said I would like to say something further, if I could.
Yeah, certainly.
Mark, if I could, having learned more about trees than I ever thought I would, in section 50712, it says the following. This is number C. The Planning and Zoning Commission shall review the tree inventory and replacement plan to determine whether all reasonable efforts have been exhausted to minimize tree removal pursuant to 50710 of this article, which has gone by the board, and to ensure the proper location, species, and size, meaning caliber dimension, of the trees identified in the replacement plan. The trees identified in the tree replacement plan shall be of a similar or same species as those trees removed or such other species acceptable to the Planning Commission, and shall have a caliper dimension of 3 inches or more and be at least 10 feet in height. That's the minimum. They got to at least be that. It can certainly be more than that, but I don't think, I don't read that to say that 3 inches meets the bill. That's my opinion. Replacement trees shall be placed during the species optical planning cycle, but in no event to exceed 3 months from issuance of certificate of occupancy. But that's the one dimension that I was able to come up with in terms of the question that you just asked.
Tim?
I guess I have a couple questions. Number one, with respect to the tree plan, I oversaw the tree plan being done. I had my engineer do it. I added to that plan, and then I sent it to Susan electronically, which is the way that she requested it to be done. So if Susan requested it to be sent electronically, that's all I can do. You know, I don't, if you want it larger, I can do it larger. I don't want to be combative, but at the same time, I can only do what I'm asked. The species that existed are on that plan, and the same species have been noted to be replanted. So that was on that particular issue. I guess I'm a little bit confused on the differences between the fact that I may or may not have made a mistake clearing the lot and my request to reestablish lot lines on my existing parcel. Are these two separate questions? Are they interrelated, or you know, that's my request right now? I mean, my concern right now. I mean, I've admitted that we could have done a better job. I have done a better job in the past, and I will do a better job in the future. I will replace these trees, but I want my application for the subdivision to be considered on its own merits.
Well, I guarantee you it'll be considered on merit. I think what the comments from the commissioners are that they were, and I'll just paraphrase, they were shocked, or maybe dismayed is a better word, that a project that was going to go from a single parcel to 3 lots, a 3-lot subdivision, was, to use John's word, clear cut. Because of the way the town looks at trees and things like that. I think that was the primary.
I completely understand that,
Yeah.
and I understand that's shocking and it's emotional. I also, as has been pointed out today, a individual homeowner could have done the exact same thing that I did. That's allowed per the code currently, as I understand it.
Well, I think the devil in the detail here is that it's always been your position, I assume, that was not going to remain one single lot or parcel. It was going to go into a small subdivision. So that
Yeah,
we're
but
thinking
not-
that, okay, wait a minute, you
Yeah.
jumped the
Not the
gun
whole
on
time.
us a little
We
bit.
did have an offer for somebody to purchase the whole parcel that we did not take. So while it could have gone either way, but we decided.
Right, I'm just trying to answer your question as to why we're going through
It
this.
just seems like.
Yeah. You will be treated
that
fairly.
that we're trying to pull up a technicality that I was trying to cover to not allow this.
Yeah, I understand your concern on that. I can also assure you that the Planning and Zoning Commission will address or finalize their decision based on what we're supposed to be doing, not what our feelings are.
Okay, thank you.
Feelings are there. I think you're hearing the feeling part as opposed to
absolutely.
the technical part.
Yeah. The feelings, I understand that. That's just.
So we can't get rid of those, but this will be resolved on the technical aspect of what the Planning Commission's responsibilities are. And the responsibility is not to make any one of us feel better. And the responsibility is that we provide our judgment based on the technical aspects of what we're following to ensure that the town's needs and the people of the town are protected from things that we don't we don't want to see done here. It's not like in Sussex County, I hear they get criticized all the time that they'll take any farmer can have a 100-unit subdivision just by saying I want it. Well, we're a little different. We're a little more tight-knit unity. Before we go any farther with any comments the commissioners have, and I don't think we've got too many more, is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am. If you can come up and...
Mike, can I add one comment?
Sure.
In the meantime? So, Tim, I want to say I understand the issues on all sides of this. I'm a business owner. I'm an architect. I specialize in residential construction. I hear what you're saying about, look, you have existing 80-foot tall trees. You're disturbing foundations. some of these are not going to survive anyway. I understand that. I understand the complications with developing residential lots. I also want to say I appreciate the irony of a company named Evergreen cutting down 27 80-foot-tall mature trees.
You saved me from using the term evergreen development. That's an oxymoron, isn't it?
I think, you know, to use your company's own words against you a little bit on your website, you say you're, you know, making friends one house at a time. I can tell you there's a whole room full of people who do not feel like you're making friends with them at the moment. So I want to just talk about like the difference between the code requirements and maybe the moral duty to do better. So as John pointed out, like, yes, sure, a 3-inch tree with a 10-foot height is the minimum code requirement. Your duties under the code, which you admitted you fell down on a little bit, were to submit a plan or 24 hours notice and that sort of thing. But I think it sounds like you intend to be developing within the town moving forward, and I think, I don't want to speak for the whole Planning and Zoning Commission, but personally, and I'm sure many of the people in this room share this opinion, we'd like to see that you, in the future, look towards the character of the existing neighborhoods that you're developing in, consider the neighbors that you're developing around, and don't just clear cut a lot because it's the simplest, easiest thing to do, even if it's minimally code allowed. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim? If you'll state your name and address, please.
Hi, my name's Janice Holland, and my house is at 617 6th Street. So I will be emotional. I've been coming here since the 80s, and here's an idea of what that lot looked like. I'm sure you all saw it on Google.
Yeah.
Okay? So this is what it looks like now. And I was there when you cut it down. Okay? So yeah, I'm emotional. There was a notice about it, and you cut the trees down before the notice. And so I'm confused about that, which you've already addressed. I also want to point out that pine trees, the roots go down into the ground. They don't cause problems with foundations. I have them around my house. So I have a hard time with a company named Evergreen that don't even understand how trees work. So I'll take that back. But what I'm concerned about is flooding in that area. After all those trees and the shrubs, everything was cleared away. A week ago, we had pretty severe flooding, which we already have in that area. And the more that we continue to do this, it's going to get worse. And so if we constantly allow developers to come in, take all these trees down that we can't grow back in that time, what are we going to do about the flooding? I mean, a tree on the average drinks, what, 500 gallons of water? And so what is the town of Bethany going to do to protect the residents in this area from all this flooding? There are other residents I've talked to that said their evergreen houses across have completely filled the lot, no trees, cement foundations, and they're constantly flooding. And so I just ask you, what can we do? And there was in the first part of the meeting, there was concern about a roof that the builder made a mistake, okay? And so how many mistakes do we have to go through before we finally say, it's not okay, you made the mistake, you need to fix it? Or, gee, I made a mistake this time by cutting all the trees before I did the right thing. Oh, but it's okay, we're just gonna slap your wrist and move on. I don't know, that's rhetorical. Thank you for letting me say that, but I think at some point, we as Bethany Beach need to take care of our environment because that is why we're here. We're here for the trees. We're here for the beauty. If they all go away, what are we doing? And what infrastructure do we have to support even more people? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott?
Thank you for that. This is not directly related, but I do want to note, and it's as good a time as any to note, that the proposed loop canal flapgate would have, we got a report from the town manager yesterday, would have prevented all of the flooding that we saw in the last storm and all of the flooding that we've seen in town over the last 10 years. I think those are sort of parallel track issues with trying to preserve and protect the existing character of the town, as you pointed out. But I just wanted to say it's a good opportunity to rally the base, so to speak, for the proposed loop canal flapgate.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Erin Pert. I'm at 541A Hudson, which is Stewards Watch. Not directly related to this, but several blocks over. But I've been an owner for 25 years in that location, and I walk the neighborhood often with my dogs. I would say that the flooding, particularly on Evans, is terribly bad and has continued to get worse as Salt Pond has risen. And every time, I understand that the town has rules with respect to the size of homes that we're allowing on lots and the size of ground cover that we're allowed to build. But every time we cover another 5,000 square feet, that is that is water that is not absorbed into the ground. It is going into Salt Pond. We continue to have more flooding. So I really urge you to work with developers such as Evergreen and have a better plan with respect to the impervious structures that were being built and how are we going to deal with that. That's just a heartfelt comment as I see the canals filling up. The second thing is really a question for the council and for Evergreen. If you all agree that perhaps the rules were skirted somewhat with these trees, what's the repercussion to Evergreen? Do you fine on is there a fine? Is there a fine for each tree? So there's nothing. There's a slap on the wrist, and you can't even stop this permit, right? So why have these rules if you don't have any way to enforce the rules? So I would urge you as the Planning Commission and we as citizens to bring this to the mayor and and have these changed. I mean, we should have very significant penalties for developers that are not following the rules. So, thank you.
Thank you.
There is an administrative process that they had to go through regarding the violation around not giving the 24 hours notice and submitting the plan. They've been through that process. As you rightly stated, it is a slap on the wrist. The mayor is here today, so she's heard your comments, and many of the town council members are as well. So thank you for those. I did want to also address just the notion of the roof height thing, which has been brought up a couple of times. I can tell you that there is no building inspector taking the code more seriously than our building inspector here in the town of Bethany Beach. I work with her regularly, submit plans to her regularly. We don't get away with anything. There's a house on my street that was built 1.5 feet too tall, probably somewhat on purpose. She made them take it down. It got lowered to the correct height. So the town of Bethany does take the codes very seriously. Our building inspector does take the codes very seriously. I think there may be opportunities where the code should be strengthened, and and the Planning Commission is working on tree preservation plans as we speak. Well, not literally as we speak, but.
Thank you.
Yeah. No. No, I had the same experience with Susan, yes.
Okay, anybody else have any comments they would like to make? Do I have a recommendation / motion from the commission? Mark?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to conditionally approve the proposed lot division with the requirement that the applicant prepare a landscape plan with a landscape architect and/or arborist for Susan's review that ensures the proposed replacement trees will thrive, and that the middle lot has a minimum of 2 trees. I think there's 1 proposed at this point. And that the species and quantity of trees is, maximizing the area that's available on the lot.
Susan? You have a comment on that?
Well, doesn't someone have to second for discussion?
Okay. Do I have a second?
Well, I'll second it, yes.
Okay, any
discuss it.
comments?
My comment is that might be difficult as I have to record this. And I'm not sure they have 3 specific homes designed for each one, nor have they been submitted or approved to then go forward with landscaping. And we also have the,
This plan has footprints.
I know, but I
So-
don't know what they are. I
Right.
don't have anything.
Right.
I don't know where.
And I agree also that my position with this is likely a 3-story house. We don't know that those trees proposed will be in the right sunlight with the right distance from the foundations. They're simply marking them on here as replacements of trees that were in those locations. And I think that, can prove that they could also all die in a year, and there's no one to require them to go and replace those. So that was my basis for that.
Well, within a year, if someone else owns it, they're gonna say, well, I didn't put the tree there, and, because they're flipping these, they're building them for a potential buyer.
Can the Planning and Zoning Commission require the submission of the tree replacement plan, like the detailed tree replacement plan, prior to the subdivision versus conditionally approving it that way? And John, is that where you were?
Yeah, I think we can, because that would be part of the action that the commission would take. Again, I'd need a formal legal opinion, but just based on what I know about the planning commission, we could probably do that.
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe that the commission has sufficient information related to the tree replacement program to move this application forward. And I'm going to offer that we amend the motion to defer final action until there is submission of a tree replacement plan that meets the building inspector's approval, that can then be reviewed, 1, by the public, and 2, by the members of the commission. And then once that has happened, it goes back on the schedule, and we can continue the discussion about whether it's approved and what needs to be part of that in terms of the footprint and all. I don't think it's in a position at this point, so I would just recommend that we make a request to the developer to provide sufficient plans in a format that makes it easy for the public to understand, and more importantly, but for me to understand. That little document, I'm sorry, I'm trying to be as objective as possible here, doesn't meet it for me. fully understand that under the terms of an R1 zoning area, that this lot has sufficient room for 3 5,000, at minimum of 5,000 square foot lots. But I don't think we have enough background material in order to make that final decision at this point, or to make a vote on it.
So that it was an amendment to the motion.
That was an amendment to Mark's, that the matter be deferred with a request that the developer provide sufficient tree replacement plans that meet the building inspector's requirements and allow sufficient time for the public and for ourselves to evaluate.
John, are you suggesting some kind of an arborist report or arborist input into what kind of trees should,
I wasn't.
many, what kind?
I wasn't proposing that specificity in this motion. We have a building inspector that does a great job at that, and a plan of sufficient detail and attention that it meets her requirement.
Susan, what's your requirement?
I think I would review it with our arborist. Anyway, but one that I don't know if these are if they just put several plans on there, or if these are the plans for the homes, or if the trees are placed properly, or where they might need parking, or how many bedrooms and how many parking spaces they need, and whether they want a pool, and, then they take a tree down because it's in the middle of the, I don't know anything about the development of these lots at this point to say, yeah, that's a good plan. I need, to do this correctly, we'd have to have them in a place and say, this is it. So if somebody buys this lot, that's where the tree's gonna go. And, then they'll have to design the house around it.
We did something like this a few years ago on roads and things like that. I forget, it was parcel off of 26.
That's what I was
Where we required them to put in drainage and permanent maintenance of, they had to build a street, a private road. South End Street, was that?
It was
They had
the
a fill for
Onofre
water
property.
underneath the house. It was a filtration.
Humphrey?
It was the Onofre property when we reviewed the PRD.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, I think it's important to note, addressing Mr. Non's concerns, that this is actually intertwined with the tree removal. The subdivision is intertwined with the tree removal because the action was taken before the lots were subdivided. So, yeah, just that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Tim?
I don't have a problem doing anything you're talking about as far as meeting with Susan and going through this tree plan again. But I think that's part of the building permit process, and I don't understand why is that going to delay the reestablishment of lot lines that already exist on the Bethany Beach plan. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's like stalling me when you have the ability to not allow me to get a building permit if without meeting those requirements. I'm talking about reestablishing lot lines on a parcel where they already exist on the town plan, and we're intermingling that with a building permit issue. And again, I have no problem doing anything you're talking about, but we're here to reestablish lot lines on a parcel.
I think the lot lines do not exist. That is why you are here. There are no interior lot lines on this parcel right now. That's the case. So it goes then to subdivision, and that's where it says you have to determine what trees come down and what trees are replaced during subdivision, not during building permit application. And I think that's where we are here, is we're looking at the subdivision, and it's how to determine what trees and what caliper the town wants to see. I mean, there's a minimal, but, you know, it's what was removed and, you know, how is this going to go forward? I don't know from the submittal if those little plans are what you actually intend, or were they plans because you do a lot, you know, that these fit and they may change?
Those are the actual plans I intend to permit.
Okay, I don't know. I don't have anything in my office. I don't know what works.
Right, and per the Town Code 507, I was supposed to place those trees in the spots where the trees were removed. So that's why I chose those locations. It's per the code. It's exactly what we have in the code.
The Planning and Zoning Commission, and I think the Walcheck property, I guess, is probably a good example of additional information that the commission wanted before they would do any approval of a property, and that ended up being a drainage situation.
That's the Onofre property.
The Onofre, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Walcheck keeps. And I think from the standpoint of the commission, before, at least what I'm hearing from several commissioners, before they make a decision, and there's no guarantee that the commission would make a decision within 30 days or 60 days, whatever, until they need to get the information. I think you understand where they're coming from, so that they can finally make a final decision as to the disposition of the request. So I think from that standpoint, we're not being different than what we've done in the past. And it's not if it was a rubber stamp, you wouldn't need a planning and zoning commission. You just need our building inspector to say, all right, that meets all the requirements, let's go. And that's not what we're doing here. So, I mean, Tim, that's our answer. We're not trying to hold you up. I would love to be able to have everybody work very fast in whatever plans they have for development. But in this case, I think there are enough questions and concerns by the general public as well as the commissioners that they need some more information. And the information they need is a detailed plan. The building inspector has said 3 times now that she doesn't know what you're going to put there. You've got a footprint, 3 footprints. You know, who knows what it's going to look like? And who knows whether, you know, once we get to 3 individual lots, you put the tree in, and then the new property owner comes in and just cuts it down. You know, and we could be back to where we started right now. So I think that's
Right, and I understand that. That's just the case with, you know, that could happen with any house and any
Yes, it
permit.
could.
Somebody could come in and do that. I'm not sure I understand exactly what you're asking for, because you asked Susan for me to submit to Susan and Susan to give me the requirements. I've already done that. You asked her what else would she need, and she's not saying what else she needs. I just am interested in having something specific, an action plan that I can take, because I'm not sure that I have that right now.
right. Susan?
Yes, sir.
Could you explain to them what you will need?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm not sure what these are intending to be. I don't know that these trees will be in the right place. I don't know how many parking spaces you'll need or how much land you'll have to hardscape for these houses. I don't know. I mean, you have said, oh yeah, these are the exact plans, but that's the whole thing. I don't know that they meet setbacks or anything, and I'm not trying to be a
But
little
isn't
bit
that part of the
difficult. May I finish? What I'm trying to say is that more detail to, and I think the code was trying to say not place the tree exactly where you pulled one up, but in this lot, in a place that is reasonable for it to be. And I'm trying to say that what you're showing here may work fine, but I think we need a little bit more detail to it, and I don't understand what's not clear about that. That is what the planning commission has just said.
I mean, I'd be glad to sit down with you and go through that. I guess I don't understand why and you've explained it, but I don't understand why the reestablishment of the property lines is being held up because of that. Because we talk all the time with you and go
Excuse
through
me,
the
Tim.
plans.
It is being held up because under Section 507, which is trees, there is a requirement for a tree inventory and replacement plan. It lays out what, at least in the code, is required. It may not meet your specificity, but your application was for a minor subdivision. And this section applies to that. And so, once you comply with 507.12, and you can have discussions with Susan as to the particularity of it, then we, the commission, the building inspector, the commission, and the public will have an opportunity to see what it is, ask questions, modify or whatever, and then we can go forward with whatever else you want to do. You made the application for a subdivision. This, one of the requirements, which you have glossed over about, well, we could have done a better job. Yes, you could have. The plan requirement is in here, and I personally am not prepared to vote on going forward beyond that until we have what is required in the code. And I'm sorry if that's not clear enough for you. It is to me.
So if I could summarize what I think the commission is asking for, which seems like it would be easy to produce if you already know the 3 houses that will go on those properties, would be preliminary plans for each of those houses showing numbers of bedrooms and therefore required parking, where that parking would be on the lot, any hardscaping, if any, and a tree replacement plan, a detailed tree replacement plan that coordinates with those individual specific designs. They don't have to be construction-ready plans, I wouldn't think, but they need to show what the house will be when it's finished and that it complies with the requirements of the specific zoning code.
Or that these trees are in a landscaped area or something. I mean, how much land around this is landscaped, is not,
Right.
more so just a basic landscape plan with, if he says these are the homes, you know, then he knows the ordinances on parking and everything. But this area is to remain landscaped, and this area is to be garden or trees or something. But just a dot doesn't explain to me what's intended.
Yeah, I just want to clear up one comment. The word delay has been used several times. This is not a delay. There is nothing that says the commission has to act within 2 weeks or 30 days or whatever. This is just what does happen when the commissioners need more information. I mean, it's very obvious they want more in order to act on your proposal. So I think...
Can I make one note too?
Yes,
Which is just
sure.
that otherwise, the lots seem to meet the requirements of the zoning code for subdivision. So now, I can't say how the commission would act in the future, but it seems like the issue at hand is an adequate site plan that the building inspector can then report to the Planning and Zoning Commission that these trees, as proposed in the replacement plan, will exist after the house is actually permitted and built.
Hey, could I ask for somebody make a motion to, well, actually, John, could you take the chair
If
for a second?
we have a motion and a second
No,
on the
I wanna-
floor, so we need to either
Well, that's what I
amend
want
that?
to do.
Okay.
Yeah. John, would you take the chair so I can?
Yes.
Yeah,
the chair.
I would like to suggest that we modify the motion that's on the floor to defer action on this particular project until such time as the information is provided to the building inspector and then to the council on the placement and types of trees that we've been talking about, and I will ask I'll propose that as a motion.
Is there a second to the chairman's motion to defer action?
Second. Second.
Yes. Is there any further discussion?
I have one question. Is there a way that we can also see a plan for the drainage? Like we did on the Offutt?
On Onifray?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
These don't have any interior roads or
Okay.
anything, and they'll have proper drainage, and it will go into the street or wherever, so as they don't drain onto other properties. That is, basically, we're stuck in these areas on where we can drain to.
So I don't believe that there, anywhere in the code, there's a requirement for a drainage plan with this. All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor to defer action. Any further comments? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I cede the chair back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Tim, thank you for and thank everybody for putting up with us a little slow on this one. That completes new business. Old business, Scott, you're excused.
Thank you.
Yeah. Old business is trees, don't leave quickly. So, does anybody need a break again, or not?
No, I'm fine.
You okay?
I'm good.
Okay, old business. Continued discussion on ox plant and tree replacement. Okay.
I'm mixing metaphors here, but kind of like beating a dead horse after what we just went through. But, Mr. Chairman, yesterday at the town council meeting, there was brought to our attention, or the town manager brought to everyone's attention, this study that had been done by an engineering firm, I don't even know the name of it, but it related to the 4 low country areas of South Carolina, and it had to do with stormwater management and various things. And they are currently in discussions with the town, and it might be an added resource for us. The study itself that I just saw visually is probably about 2 inches thick.
1,500 pages.
But I think if we get access to that and can start reviewing it, that will go a long way towards the discussions that are under old business about trees and Green Bethany. It's not the answer, the end-all and be-all, but it's going to be a great resource for us to start filling out that part of it. And we're still, I think, in the review process for the 2022-2032 Comprehensive Development Plan, that if there are positive things that come out of this, that we will be able to see about integrating them into the plan going forward. And I'd look forward to having that discussion. I don't have anything specifically to add under old business for items A or B.
Is that, let me ask, our one council person left.
It's you, Bruce. Bruce, you're on the spot.
Bruce, did they, is that on the town site, or is it just the hard copy that Cliff had? Yeah. Okay. And then, yeah, if everybody could get a link, and then just, you know, it is pretty long. I think it's going to be a speed read.
We can get some copies too if we need to.
For our night reading?
Yeah. for
Let
like-
me tell you, it is thick. I hate that.
Or doorstops, or, you know, whatever we need.
Well, I'd take a copy if I could get one, Andrea. Who wants to?
I would like to have a copy.
Yeah, it is pretty thick, but
Mr. Chairman, I don't know what when people text, they use, you know, initials and so forth. This report is too long, and I won't read it, so I TLWR. I'm sure there's an executive summary, but.
I don't know.
Okay, anyway.
I think at this point, if we get a copy of that, you know, get copies of that, that's probably the best way to do it. Whoever wants to go through all of it can go through all of it. I'm sure it's much more than what we need to consider, since we're a little smaller than the low country of South Carolina. I'm sure they have stuff about snakes in there that we don't need to know.
I mean, once we see it, we might be able to divide it up and read it in sections.
We could,
Yeah.
we could.
You
And
can
I,
take a look
yeah.
at it, see if you need full copies.
Yeah, I think it's gonna have to be like a speed read, because it is pretty thick. Well, with that, I guess, if,
I have something.
yes, Susan.
Number one, we have to sign
Yes, we
the plats for the town. And I'm going to request that you also re-sign the Hudson Avenue. I had new ones made. I took them up to Planning and Zoning. We're having a meeting, and we're going to delay me by 2 hours. And Recording said they didn't like them because there was, they had put a spot on the plan for the owners to sign it for some reason, which is not required. They hadn't signed it, and they wanted only originals now, which they had gone back to. So they did not like them, so I had them redone, and if you would please sign them, I can finally get that recorded. They have moved the house, and are in the process of getting that settled on the next property and going forward. No word on Mrs. Onifray yet.
Well, it is a Saturday.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And poor woman.
Waiting on them. I know they've looked at a few things.
I have another question, though. When are we going to have the results of what Delaware or the contractor is doing with the plan, a comprehensive plan, for us to go over it?
Oh, that I don't know. Who, you mean, the people that we
Yeah.
hired to do the comprehensive plan? That I don't know. Terry might know that and is out this week. She will be back.
Because then we would take our green initiative and put that in there, or is there something in there that they're doing that we don't know about?
We have until next year to finish the plan.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
But I can-
Terry mentioned we had the
Once-
opportunity to collaborate on that once they got through that draft, so it would coincide with maybe us having a list of some of our initiatives to have that discussion, so.
Who is this? Is this you? It's today's the 21st.
Today is the
I'm
21st.
dyslexic.
What'd you put it?
My daughter is, that's why I caught it, and I am too. Oh, here, let me see, this one's signed.
Is there enough room for Rena?
Just sign, we need, wait, there's only 4 spots?
It's only,
I don't know how
you
many.
just
copies.
sign underneath?
Sign under, you sign on that
I'll
line.
sign and then-
and then Mark can sign underneath. are we signing here? Only reason why I know this, I had to call my sister on her birthday today. Otherwise, I never know what day it is.
I know. Yeah, Hell being retired, right?
And my daughter was here with us, so we did a group singing to her. And she asked for the short version for our voices, because she's the singer.
That's not very nice of her.
Sorry.
Susan, going forward, I don't know, Evergreen. I'm available to come down.
I will take anything they send seriously and have it making sure they are
I might not have sang this. This one I think is
area,
signed, right?
in an area that will,
But it's not?
but we have to know how much is going to
This one is.
fit between the little piece of concrete. I'm not gonna.
Right. If they want to put it, if they want to put a tree in the same location as some of the ones they cut down, they're gonna have to
Take that stump out.
take the stump out. We didn't even get into that.
Well,
I know.
well,
That's why I said I thought it meant just that
I
area.
like reading the comment. They have the trees to be taken out by construction. Well, why'd they take the rest of that?
They just,
They just cut.
She has
they're
a
cut.
question.
Yes, just 1 second. You're going to have to go up there when we do that. Have we finished, we've finished the old business until we read this, correct? Everybody's in agreement to that, aren't they? Okay.
Okay.
Now, if you'll go up there,
First of all, I appreciate the way you handled what could have potentially been contentious. You have a violator, essentially. He's violated the code. It doesn't matter whether they're one code here, one code there. He's in an enforcement action right now.
well, I don't think that he's violated, he's bent the rules
Okay.
considerably.
You have a tree requirement, and you have an alleged enforcement action. You're working through it. That's why he's coming up with a revised plan. But my question more is, on the request, because he's trying to divorce the two. He wanted to move forward with a subdivision R1, R3, while you're redressing the clear-cut issue. And so my question is, on the R1 to R3, what are the substantive criteria that this planning commission and the building inspector use to evaluate whether or not it's appropriate to go from R1 to R3? It's not automatic. Is there a substantive criteria?
there's no R3.
Well, the fact that he's going from one dwelling to 3 dwellings and new lot lines,
And the question with that is,
what are the criteria you use
The
to?
criteria for a single buildable lot in the R1 district is it has at least a minimum, for interior lots, a minimum of 40 feet of frontage on a street and 5,000 square feet. That is the criteria for a buildable lot in the R1 district.
Okay, so if I were to come in and I had that, it's pro forma. It's automatic that I would get my new lot line if I had 40 feet of frontage and 5,000 square feet.
Pretty much this goes a lot smoother with partitionings because you're putting in one lot line and, this one has 40 feet, this one has 40 or 50 if it's a corner, and they each have at least 5,000, and the planning commission can approve it.
Okay,
This was a little different because it was 3 lots, and once you get into more than 2 lots, the code asks for a little bit more.
okay. So I guess one thing that I think about when I go to look at these regulations is this town is experiencing exacerbated flooding. Evergreen is not a young company or new to development. They should have known what they were doing when they clear cut. But as an adjacent property owner and not abutting. My thinking is the town's experiencing increased exacerbated flooding. I'm not so sure that just the fact that you could do it means you should do it, because you're affecting not only people's property, adjacent property, but you're affecting potentially their flood insurance and what their zone is. And I'm just trying to think, how do we go in the future? I have no sympathy for Evergreen because they did what they did and you guys got to work that out. But I am thinking futuristically, how are you going to deal with that? Because we do have some vacant lots and they are buildable, but I will be up in arms when I see just, well, it meets the 5,000 square feet and it meets the 40 foot, because you can get a permit for anything almost.
No. But flooding, and this does not affect flood insurance, basically, or your flood designation. That's a whole other thing done by FEMA, where they have scientists come in and judge things. And even the maps we have now do not take into account Superstorm Sandy, because the information was predated to that. But if you own a lot, I don't know how it's fair to say, well, they built, and now you can't.
Well,
So that's where we are.
yeah, that's the challenge with cumulative effects, and that's why I was asking what the process is and the criteria, because we do end up denying certain things. I didn't say deny, I said there is some consideration for possibly working with Evergreen to say, we're not gonna go from R1, or one lot, one house to 3 dwellings. What about 1 house to 2 dwellings, so that you can get that proper tree planting plan? Why wouldn't that be a negotiable point? I mean, 16,000 square feet is 1/3 of an acre. 3 houses on 1/3 of an acre is significant density. And then you're talking about a tree plan for a forest, is what we were talking about, that existed. And you heard from the property owners, we're concerned. And I'm concerned. I know the FEMA regulations, and I know how building development works. And I'm just thinking, you don't have to say no, but you have a negotiable opportunity that could allow the development to occur on a more reasonable basis, lessen the impact. This tree plan of 3 dBH and 10 feet high and a larger tree and having it successfully grow and live, I mean, on 5,000 square feet, where you know how property owners develop. So I was kind of curious about that, because if I were the regulator, I would have said, I want you to do additional avoidance and minimization.
Well, I think what you're addressing is something that the commission is addressing currently. We didn't do any more of it today. Under old business, we do have tree replacement down there, and that's part of what's gonna come here. Currently, I think, as Susan said, if somebody has a single parcel or a single lot, the way the ordinance is written, that's it. I mean, they can sort of do anything for the most part, they want from the standpoint of trees, and we're trying to deal with that. It's just like years ago when we did when the town council, with recommendation from the planning commission, dealt with the mega mansions. You know, we made some very specific changes so that we don't have these huge 3-story boxes. And we went to roof lines and a lot of things. And I think that's sort of what we're dealing with here with the trees.
We related it to lot coverage, and we made it more advantageous to have less lot coverage. And we're looking at those kinds of things all the time to solve things. It's not going to be done overnight.
Yeah.
But that took 2 years.
The second time it took 2 years.
And I just want to say, to me, what I'm hearing is like the ability to go from 1 dwelling to 3 dwelling, if it meets 5,000 square feet, 40 feet, is a rubber stamp. That's it.
It's not a rubber stamp, but throughout the town, we have R1 and R2. And R1 says that if you are in that area, it's a minimum of 5,000 square feet. And that applies across the board, whether it was something that was built in 1901 or today. And in R2, which is on the other side, and mostly would be the southeast corner, it's 7,000 square feet. You're asking, well, we might need to change that. My only point would be that changing that has to apply evenly across all the areas that are under that designation and the property owners.
Yeah.
And so, while I hear what you're saying, I don't envision a major rezoning requirement that's going to change those basic requirements.
Okay. That's good to know. And then the last thing is, does the impervious rule that they cannot use, that in that 5,000 square feet, they got to use pervious surface for their driveways and their foundation?
Well, that's not a requirement at this point. It's gone to the council. The council has tabled the approval of that. But if you want to, say, put a driveway in, you either wait for them to finish it or you follow what has already been sent to them for evaluation. And that's what part of this, you heard us talk about this big plan and thing. That's addressed in there. So what's going to happen is we're going to look, we and the council and staff are going to look more into additional options to that. So it's there. It's just not finalized yet, but if Susan gets a request, she's going to say, well,
Yeah,
do what you want. It might cost you more than when they finish it. But
Since it's pending,
It's pending.
according to what
Right.
I heard from the council, and there's some clarification I'm going to need on that. Since it's pending, all new requests from today on, or yesterday on.
Yesterday on.
From what I'm getting, have to be pervious.
Right.
And it's not foundations, it's your driveway, your patios, your sidewalks. So,
Oh, so this application will be grandfathered because it came in
No.
prior to the date?
Oh, no,
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 they haven't
no.
submitted-
They
they
have
haven't
no,
submitted the-
she has
they
not
don't
no
approved anything.
application in for anything but partition, but subdivision.
Okay.
So
Thanks
the-
for,
And-
thanks for
Okay.
that. That's a good clarification. I'm just trying to think of what the folks that are frustrated by these, I get that you have the rules, but the adjacent property owners that are experiencing stuff are frustrated. And what it sounds like is you have a violator, call him what you want. He violated the rules. He should have known them. They're a big corporation.
And we're dealing with it.
Right, and you're dealing with it, and I'm just trying to think, like, the property owners, like Eric Scott said, good neighbor, and just kind of figure out how you can go forward, because you have done something that's upset the people that you're developing around.
This whole pending regulation, that was generated by a concern, as you raised, that if every time you put a roof on, that takes away 5,000 square feet of ground that can absorb things and so forth.
Yeah.
We've looked at and seen how this area, with all the building, that has reduced the area and given rise to flooding and so forth, and that's one of the motivators of why we were even doing this. It's the same reason why the town, when they redid South Atlantic from Garfield down to Bethany West, or Sea Colony, when they redid that,
Yep.
all of that is pervious material.
Yep.
And it turns out that it's not just a matter of, and this is non-engineering, of putting this down with holes in it so that it percolates. You then have to maintain it. You have to make sure that those holes stay open, and we're getting some good and bad experience from areas where if you run on it straight, it maintains itself, but if you back in and out or you make a turn on it, you're wearing that down, and these are all sort of side effects that we're trying to include now with this engineering operation as to how best to do that. So it may not be enough, it may not be fast enough for some, but there is time and attention being paid, not only by the planning commission, but by the town manager and the town going forward.
Yeah, thanks very much, and sorry I took up with some more.
That's all right.
I got a lot of writing to do based on what I asked for earlier, and I'll go home and write it up. And I really appreciate you as whatever you are, volunteers or.
Yeah, we're volunteers.
We get the big money.
You want half our salary?
We're appointed by the mayor and then confirmed by the town council. And we're all volunteers. There is no recompense for what we do.
Well, you do a good public service, I'll say that. Much as, like, my face might say something else, I'm like, it's interesting, and if you read the Coastal Point and you read the article about, I think it was not Millville, that lady wrote an article about the town and the politics of the town. It was very interesting. I'm like, oh God, thank God, that was not like that. Very interesting. Hillsborough.
Millsboro, yeah.
Interesting article, but I was like, wow, no public notices, things of that nature, advertising that is for elections.
All right, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, do I have it? To summarize the action, we completed everything we wanted, and thank you, and more. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Very good, thank you.
I mean, it is frustrating because they go ahead and
I
do
hope I didn't
something and then they just,
Oh, no,
you
no.
know, oh, why don't we